Welcome, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening, wherever you are. So today, our topic, what we're going to present is why loving yourself seems to be the key. And I know that one of our more recent talks or discussions was on acceptance. So a lot of this is overlapping and whatnot, but I feel, or we've come up with the fact that to love yourself is key, so that it gives you the chance to do the acceptance and the other things. So like love for others, self-love can take many forms, from simple friendship with oneself to purposeful acts of self-care or self-protection. So the concept of self-love is ancient. It's not a new concept, okay? Self-love is not the same as selfishness or ignorance of others' needs. Seeing our own inherent worth can sometimes help us remember the worth of others. So practicing the loving self-care in order to helps us to better serve others. Okay. So this mindset kind of centers the understanding that if we ourselves are depleted, it's harder to be generous with others. So think of the classic in the airplane, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, right? You don't want to, your cup has to be full enough to be able to help others. So it starts with you. So at the most basic level, we must learn to understand and meet our own needs in order to survive and to thrive and enjoy our lives to the fullest. Self-love can also be simple appreciation of the traits that make us uniquely ourselves. Okay, so I found that there were some quotes that I kind of liked. One was, it's about waking up in the morning and saying that I'm worthy of love, belonging, and joy. It's about engaging with the world from a place of worthiness. Another one is, no matter what troubles have befallen you or what difficulties you have caused yourself or others, with love for yourself, you can change, grow, make amends, and learn. Real love does not encourage you to ignore your problems or deny your mistakes and imperfections. You see them clearly and you still opt to love. The way to get kindness within yourself is spending time being nice to yourself, spending time getting to know you and love yourself, because loving yourself helps you to love other people. And I don't even remember, I didn't look how long ago it was, but for people that are familiar with Whitney Houston's song, The Greatest Love of All, those words say, no matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. Learning to love yourself, it is the greatest love of all. So I thought, a lot of times we sing along and we kind of get the gist, but we don't let those words sink in. Okay. So, and then as I thought further, it makes sense. If it kind of starts with us unconditionally loving and accepting ourselves, which then gives us the eyes to see humanity that way. If that's key, what have the dark side and all the controllers, they've enslaved us, and what have they done to us all of our lives? They have done everything possible to mute that, to not give us or not let us feel and have the gifts or the things that we naturally came in and we are deserving of. They keep us enslaved in jobs, okay, working, trying to make a living, and we're distracted. We're not able to keep our eyes on the prize. And then they put in divisiveness. They put in, from religion to racial things, which that should never be an issue. And it would never have been an issue if we all unconditionally came from that love, that heart love space. So it totally makes sense why they have gradually even amped that up. And you can even say technology again, for all the, the double-edged sword there, the good things that come with it, but it enables them to control the masses much, much easier and much quicker. If I think about, even for myself, but think about pioneering days or days where you didn't have that kind of communication. even if there was a negative thought or something going on that wasn't right, it could be handled in that little space. It didn't have the fuel, and it didn't turn into a big firestorm like it can with our internet and with all that. So, you start thinking logically about it, and it just like, it makes me see red, but it totally makes sense. Okay. So, and I'm not saying that because we're having this discussion, we're perfect at it. We're all a work in progress, all trying to do the best we can in that department. And we all fall, you know what I mean? Some of the practices for loving yourself is stop comparing yourself to others. And we've talked about that's part of the acceptance thing too. Don't worry about others' opinions. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Realize that. And in a way, it helps me to just try to find a little humor in the things that we do. You know what I mean? If you have humor, I mean, it helps a lot. Remember, your value doesn't lie in your looks. Okay, so again, that's what they've tried to get us to compare each other in our situations. And don't be afraid to let toxic people go in your life. Kind of analyze what it is that's keeping you held down. Process your fears and trust that you will make the good decisions for yourself. Take every opportunity in life to present or create your own gifts, or your own ideas. Put yourself first. Feel pain and joy fully, and exercise boldness in public. Just command that autonomy, command that sovereignty is a help in that. So see the beauty in the simple things, but most importantly, be kind to yourself. And when we're all done, there's kind of a fun little poem that I have that's kind of cool. So anyway, like I say, it makes sense that it would be like a number one, baseline, which would allow for the flow of all things, acceptance, unconditional love, all that to just naturally be who we are. But we have been definitely handicapped in that regard, or held down. Yes, that makes sense.
Yes, very good, Juliann, and you've done it all. I have a few things to add.
No, you have some really nice things, and we all come, lots of information.
I also wanted to, like, that chart again. If you go back to that chart, inner love, I assume that to be also self-love.
Yeah.
And that on the chart is above acceptance. So it's very important. It's above inner light, reason, inner wisdom. So inner love is above acceptance. So that's like a big key. And this is part of our inner work that we have been asked to do, and we've had to do it because of all these dark forces that are trying to make us divided. And they've also tried to infuse that we should feel valued by the stuff we have, the people that surround us, and that's totally incorrect. But yeah, I had some of the same things down about things to do, to speak kindly to yourself. And remember, mirror work, again, we brought that up in acceptance. That is a very, very powerful tool to use daily, to be able to tell yourself in the mirror, I love you. And yeah, we don't always like this, or we don't always like that about ourselves, but it's what we have. And we aren't like other people, but we're different, we're unique. And just appreciating that is a kind of self-love too. So and I also think part of self-love is getting to know yourself. So I'm going to share this questions that you might want to ask yourselves, questions to help know yourself better. What are my strengths? What are my goals? What am I ashamed of? So getting to know yourself is kind of being kind to yourself and loving to yourself too. I hope that you can see it all, and maybe I'll try and include that somewhere. But and I copied this from I get a lot of inspiration from Pinterest again. So when I'm feeling down, I go to Pinterest a lot of times and I try and find a mantra or an affirmation, excuse me, that kind of fits my mood, that kind of turns things around for me. So what does my inner critic tell me? I mean, that's part of inner work. It's all part of inner work and for you to get through. So very important. And yes, we aren't all, ready to be like beautiful at everything. And I have a book. So I don't know if you're familiar with this book, Language as a Way of Life by Gary Chapman. And it talks about love languages. Everybody has a different love language. Sometimes it's being in each other's company. Sometimes it's giving gifts. Sometimes it's, even finding what your love language is a good idea, because it helps you know what you need when you need self-care. And then also if you can find out like the people who are around you, what their love language is, you can also help them. So, but first focus on yourself and what is your language? Sometimes it's acts of service. Sometimes it's acts of kindness. Sometimes it's, whatever, but it's a good book to read. And he is a little bit religious, but there is a really good message in this book.
Thank
so yeah, don't be afraid to start, from the bottom. If you think that it's too much, just start simply at the bottom. Just, I love myself. Just say it and work with that, or get to know yourself with this list. And if you need a copy of it, you can like put an email down and I can email it to you also. So don't be afraid to reach out if you want a little extra attention or information about this, about the book or anything, because we're all here to support each other at this time. And that's all I have, because Juliann did such a good job already. So,
but even that kind of stuff can be done, come from different angles. I mean, like I say, it's all mixed together, but you got to start somewhere.
Right. And starting with yourself, that is the biggest thing that people don't realize.
Thank you for the book. I think we'll try to pin, at least the name of the book and author and stuff on the underneath. Miss Dana.
Hello.
Hello.
So,
yes,
this is a question I often have asked from a lot of people. And when it comes to self-love, this is a question, when I posed the question to myself, that was a game changer. Because myself, if you look at the studies, we have quite the inner analog going on an average day. And those of us who are inclined to live inside our heads rather than, mixing with the outside world, tend to kind of have these inner dialogues more than, your average person. Another fascinating study I've read about. But it's astounding how big of a percentage of that inner dialogue is actually negative towards ourselves. And I always, until when I heard that magical question, because that was asked of me, and I was shocked at how negative my self-talk was until then. Because I was asked, when did it become okay for Dana to be treated that way? And I was like, that was a big question. And when I returned the favor, because that was a huge favor when the person asked me that question. So when I've say, in my old life, when I was a bit more social and and mingled with people, and they, for some reason, I don't understand why. I've seen a lot, I've gone through a lot. I don't have much of I'm not interested in being a nice person in a way, of a social filter. I don't like lying. If I don't like something, I say it. And I tend to read the situations in a way that I don't like to say it when I don't have to say it. But if my opinion is being asked, I will give you my opinion. So maybe that's why. I don't know why. But for some reason, a lot of people have started to share their lives with me and asked a lot of questions. I don't think, for a person who's perpetually single for a huge amount of decades, basically, why would you go and ask the person relationship advice? But alas, here I am. And a lot of people have asked me advice, and it's come to my attention that a lot of spouses can be quite vicious to each other, both men and women. I'm not excluding the other, sex from the other. I mean, it's both ways. And every time I've asked a person, since when did it become okay to say the person's name is Jackie? When did it become okay for Jackie to be treated this way? And enter a long silence, a long silence. Like, what makes it okay for Jackie to be treated this way? Well, then comes the explanation. No, just answer my question. And then another, and this is something I needed to ask myself a whole lot of times before I started to cognitively change my inner dialogue, because there was so much to change in it, believe you me, was that if you are your best friend, would you ever talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself?
Big.
Huge.
Yep. Big.
So say 5 years ago, if I would have looked, to the right-hand side and said, oh, I didn't make the bed today. That would have been a disaster, because that's the one thing I do unless awful things happen in the world, is I make the bed. Well, what do you know? I didn't make the bed today. And now I look at the bed like, oh, nobody cares. That's such a non-issue, because I don't have that negative inner dialogue anymore. And it can be such a small thing that, like making your bed every day. And well, I've been kind to myself lately. Past few days I've been resting more, so that is the reason I didn't make the bed. Had I not been resting, and had today have been more normal than usually, and the bed wouldn't have been made, that too would not have bothered me one inkling. Like, I will not lose a wink of my beauty sleeps because of a bed wasn't made during the daytime when I wasn't here. But it's almost like it took me years to train for that, to train to speak to myself like I would be talking to my best friend or friends. And when you start to question yourself, like, since when did it become okay for enter your name to be treated this way? That will change the game completely, completely. So when it comes to self-love, it's not just a question of what do you say yes to, but also what do you say no to? And sometimes a no is a complete sentence. Actually, it always is a full sentence, and you don't owe it to anyone to make their lives or days better or easier. It's kind and wonderful if you have to do that. But if you have to give from yourself, from your dignity, then that is no favor to anyone. Because sometimes catering too much to other people, you can stunt their, emotional growth that way. Because if you are there to always handle the situations for other people, how it's like raising kids. Like I see from my own son now that he is of age and capable of taking so much more responsibility. He is taking the responsibility when he can and when he's capable. And like even this week, he's done, you know, even if it, you know, feels like it's a bit of a bother, it takes him more time to come and meet the halfway. He's done just that. And that is because he has learned that there comes a time he needs to cut the slack himself. So he already has internalized that. But sometimes we like to help other people, and we like to make their lives so much easier that we forget that these adult people are fully capable of tending to themselves as well. So sometimes loving yourself is to make yourself happy, even though full well knowing you will make other people unhappy. And these can be very little things, or these can be very, for some reason, okay, something is brought to my, like a memory was returned to me. I I used to live in a capital of Finland, and in order to be able to do so, they say that Helsinki is at least, you know, back in the days when I was a wee bit younger, so we can say it's been a while. So there was a saying that Helsinki is like a New York in miniature, and that meant as well that I had to work 2 and 3 jobs to be able to rent a studio there. And so I was always working, and I had these freelance gigs, and one of them was I was called to an office environment, and I was there, and I was given a certain job description. And one of my colleagues that week, because I was hired for a week, one of my colleagues was this beautifully preposterous middle-aged man who the first thing he welcomed me, introduced himself and say, "Hey, would you go to a kitchen and make me a cup of coffee?" And I smiled as warmly and, you know, welcomely as I ever can in my 20-something person self, and said, "Absolutely not. But when you do go do that, would you fix me a, you know, cup of tea as well? And herbal, please. And honey, no sugar. Thanks." And I went to my office and started my work. Lo and behold, I got my herbal tea with a pouch of honey on the side, which was very kind of him. But you know, nobody knows how you are to be treated and loved unless you do so yourself. So it's also important to understand that people will treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And you have to set those boundaries, but also you have to understand that you have to first, and this is fundamental, you have to love yourself first. Because it's like people are like wild beasts. They can smell fear, so you have to be authentic about it. And you don't have to be mean about it. You can just wear the most heartfelt, broad smile that you can muster and say, "Absolutely not." And that works wonders, because, you know, from the first day, it was almost like from the first day, the table was set in a completely different way than it would have been for the rest of the week. He would have, you know, handled me as his personal secretary. And from the way he was conducting himself, something, a little voice in my head tells me he's done that a couple of times before, because that was one of those companies who uses temps quite regularly, just because, you know, it's for a company, it can be less expensive to have to start to pay for yearly vacations, or, you know, sick leaves, etc., etc. So it can be cheaper to buy some, you know, workforce there. You know, it can be something large. Say you're organizing a wedding and you have a very overpowering mother-in-law or your own mother, and they'd like to arrange a wedding much to their liking, to a point that they come wearing a white dress to the to the venue, that is exactly the right place to say, like, this is my, situation is happening there. And it's always good to have, maybe for some reason, this is another scenario that was given to me. I've never, been in a position of being in a very large wedding where I was a bride. But for some reason, I was given this vision of having a handy, very courageous maid of honor with a very large glass of red wine at hand for those kinds of situations, because situations can be arranged and accidents do happen. So just remember your boundaries and be ready and willing to act on them. Or sometimes you find extending hands close by who are willing to give a hand. Yeah, I think that's it. I think, when it comes to loving and all the love and light, there is the other side. Sometimes love and light can extend way far than just hugging trees and, rainbows and unicorns and fairy dust, etc. Sometimes you actually take a bull by the horns and show the bull how the situation goes about.
And that happens when a person loves themselves enough to stand up for themselves. So you make a good point in how, well, why are people always treating me that way or whatever? Again, you've set the table, as you say. And again, the questionnaire, or the questions, how often do we really ask ourselves questions about what's going on in our life? We seem to try to figure it out every other way, sideways, upside down, everything else. And it's usually because we think somebody else is at fault. But no, it's the, think mirror. Again, think, how are you also, first of all, how are you presenting and allowing people to treat you? Secondly, how are you acting or reacting when people say things to you? Again, that sets the table too. Or you go, oh, would I be inclined to do that to myself? So.
Very good. Yes.
Yeah. And another thing, actually, I was given a message by my people, and they would like to. So they come from a place where all the energy, like the energy field, is in the heart space, and that is where love resides. And it's the frequency up there is so different to the frequency down here. Like everything happens and comes from this emotional feeling space. And they would, when it comes to love, they would love for humanity to also kind of arise themselves. And they tell me there's no one is your hindrance other than your self-perceived limitations. And there are none, really. There are none. It's just that we are made to believe. But go to the feeling place of everything is love. And when you experience that, that is when your surroundings will start to morph miraculously. Everything comes from, it's like everything comes, like they tell me brain was always meant for problem solving. Like your knowing comes from here, from your heart space. So it's when we listen to our intuition, and now they show me the whole chakra system. It's almost like this is our central computer that is working, are the chakra systems. Like everything should be humming harmoniously and open, like we should be open funnels for the energy and light to come in and flow everywhere. And it's almost like that they especially like the expression there is in English language, which is miraculous. They don't really like English language too much, but they really like the expression heart breathings, because that is how I'm being shown, like they breathe out through the heart, and like that is how they extend their energy. It's like energetically they are hugging everyone around them. And then like think less in a cognitive way, like this is for problem solving. this is a thinking factory. This is the feeling factory. And your, like, the most important decisions in your life should happen, like, you know, it's called intuition, it's called gut feeling. It has all kinds of expressions, but they really are the inner knowing. When you know in your heart of hearts, that's another expression. Really, they like it really much. They tell me, like, when you really know something, that is the time you use your brain and figure out, how do I get to that place? Or another thing is use that, you know, what is the feeling place? You can use any, you know, any old example of going to that energetic place of feeling that. And even if you don't know, how do you feel like I can't use that. They told me to use the example of a chateau. Like, you know, how would you feel like being in I flipped in a chateau, you know, when I was, again, younger, not for a long time. And eventually I escaped to Paris from there. Awful place. I mean, the energy was dense AF. Anyways, but, you know, even if you find yourself, you know, wanting to find yourself being in some kind of a feeling place, use something else as an example to find that same energy, because that is the moment the whole of universe will start to conspire to get you from where you are to the place where you want to go. And yeah, but everything comes from the feeling. So start to, and another thing is, when you start to look at things from a place of love, unconditional love, that is when the world around you will start to transform. When you look at yourself, when you feel yourself from a place of love, I have this incredible human vessel on my, basically on my, as my transport throughout, you know, throughout this life, this incredible human suit. Did you know that our human suits were designed to correct themselves? Did you know that these human embodiments we are in now, we were designed so that we can create and manifest everything and anything we want? The more layers of the programming, of the preconceived ideologies we shed, the closer we are to becoming so bright and full of light, that all these things that we've desired and want to see in our lives, they tell me, be prepared. They may come in a different package, what you expected or wanted them to come, but they come in a package that is the best possible solution for you. That is when these, what we call miracles, will happen. I remember when I was basically, according to my doctor, I was, you know, my organs were shutting down. There were several autoimmune diseases, etc. And he wanted to put me on a medication that would have basically been the end of it, but that would have been the only thing, you know, keeping my body going. And I told him, I want to fight this. I want to see if I can do that. And he said, you do know that if you try, that may cost you your life. And I told him, my life is, you know, I'm expired already. What are the odds? I either die trying, or I sit down and wait for it to happen while feeling completely crappy the whole time. And fast forward another, I think it took me 2 years, I had another appointment with him. And he said that he was expecting me to call his office way earlier. And he took a look at me and sat down and said, I want you to tell me exactly what it is you've been doing. And I asked him, do you want me to know how I'm feeling? I have your lab results. I know how you're feeling. I want to know what you've been doing. And the man took notes. And he said that your adrenals were paralyzed. Like these and those, you know, things in your body weren't working at all for so many years, that medically I can never give you explanation what this and that, you know, how is this medically possible, but apparently it is. So that is the reason I wanted to know what you've been doing. And he had a bit of a, you know, look like, you know, what are you not telling me? But he couldn't find, you know, any medical reason. But the thing is, that's one of the manifestations that was, you know, what they brought to my memory. So for some reason I needed to tell that, because that was my inner voice, my inner note, my gut feeling told me I need to fight this and not, you know, agree to crumble to pieces. I was already in a such an awful place, physically and also, you know, mentally, because of, you know, everything that had been going. But I had this kind of a like feeling, what if this is not the end? And how long ago was that? Let me think. 10 years ago? Longer. Over 10. I think that was in over 10 years ago. Yeah, must have been. I was just thinking about, you know, moving to another place, etc. Anyways, so when you get that inner knowing and inner feeling, follow that. That is an act of self-love. Following your inner intuition, because that intuition comes from the source. That intuition is that voice that knows better than our kind of a everyday, you know, we go through life and everything happens throughout the day, and in the evening we may feel exhausted. So it's like we carry layers of this energetic gunk that needs to be peeled away. But when you get that inner knowing of something, that is a voice of your higher self, of your soul, of that is the voice of the divinity inside of you. Listen to that. And find ways to meet that situation. Try and if you don't see a way to go about it, you can ask help. We are never alone. We have all of our, you know, we have our soul families, our spiritual families, our ancestry is like, and you know, especially some cultures, and you know, my culture is one of my cultures is very, you know, thick with ancestry. So I have fierce uncles that come to my aid when I've asked them, and I have plenty of examples, but I think I've talked quite long enough. But we have our angels, we have our galactics, we have all of our families are here with us. Ask them for inspiration. Did you know there are millions of unemployed angels? Hordes of angelics have come to the planet because of the times we are living in, because of the times we are heading toward. They are just waiting there in the wings. Oh, pun intended. It was kind of like a dad's joke there. You're welcome. Just ask them.
Yeah.
Ask them. Recruit them. I'm asking for all the unemployed angels for this and this and that. And sometimes the asking is the one thing they need. And
Right.
even your galactics and you know, the people that are working with you. And this timeline is not the only one that is happening. There are timelines that have happened before and happening in our now future. But yeah.
Yeah, they need permission.
They need permission, and you have to ask them. They're like, oftentimes I see these higher dimensionals, they are like,
yeah,
I just want them to ask me. Ask.
A perfect reminder for everyone that we have that at our fingertips. Stephanie, do you have anything?
Can just ask, give me an inspiration. What should I do today to get closer to where I want to be? You know, energy space. Like show me the fastest, funnest, because they like to have fun. They don't understand how humans are so serious, and they also don't understand what it is like to live here. I mean, it's not a fun business to be here. And that is why they don't understand why we're so serious. You can just ask.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
I think they're
asking
here
for
now.
assistance
I
to make
sense
this.
that as you were
Yeah.
talking, they were like,
Like, what can I do today? How do I find inspiration? I'd like to see this and say, I'd like to this and that to be arranged in the most fun, fabulous, extraordinary, and surprising way.
Yeah.
And like, well, of course. I mean,
if
we
you're
can't
open to
never
it
ask.
and you're asking them,
Yeah.
that's just another tool in your toolbox. And you know,
And think about how powerful.
Yeah, and in all this talking about, you know, let your heart lead you more, because we've been trained to be in a brain, thinking science, thinking all these factual things. There's a time and a place for that, but it's not
And
always.
I do love science. I do love all those factual things, but also be critical about them.
Yeah.
Who was, I mean, especially, I'm kind of a very seasoned when it comes to reading through research, etc. Who ordered that research?
Right.
Were they
Was
paid
it?
for it?
Yeah.
What
Now
was
they're
their
warning. Don't
intention?
say those words.
Intention
I was
is
thinking.
everything.
Yeah. So do the research, but also see who is behind that information. Who is the source of that resource?
That's where that
you
saying.
Also do find a tremendous amount of information out there. And you find these just, you know, especially if there are, I can recommend that usually when the research is done by a student who is working for their you know,
thesis.
Something like that. Something that doesn't, especially if they don't have any sponsors. I don't know the legalities, you know, country-wise, but especially if that research hasn't been paid by, say, a company that would benefit of a certain kind of end result. If there are no sponsors behind that and it's an independent study, and then if you find another study and another study, you can kind of independently done. The word is independent here. If you are, you know, going about in a kind of a scientific way, then you can do cross-examination between the studies. And you really can say that, you know, if a study's been done on the completely other side of a planet, and the results are comparable with, you know, study that was made earlier. So that probably could tell you something.
Yeah, that's where the old saying, consider the source.
Consider the source.
That's
and
been said many times. Yeah,
follow the money. And if there isn't a trail of money to be found, that is maybe when you can pay a little bit more attention.
Right.
But more than any research, the best parameter is found within yourself. How does it feel for you?
Yep.
Because not everything works for everyone.
Yep. I think that's a great ending, a good ending point, really.
Yeah.
With the
and
heart
I
space.
encourage everyone to ask for more joy in their days and their lives. Like, find me more reasons to feel joy today. Just arrange, like, imagine if in the beginning of day you say, find me moments where I can laugh, a good old-fashioned belly laugh.
Yeah, that's good for the soul.
You might find yourself kind of surprised at the situations that happen.
What raises your frequency so much?
Yeah, it does. It does, because, you know, joy can get you there. So yeah.
So yes, feel into your heart too. You know, every morning, start your day, and you know, what can I do today to love myself more, to find more joy, and you know, breathe in and out through your heart. You don't have to do it literally, of course, but like imagine that you're breathing.
Yeah, imagine you're breathing in air and feel your lungs all the way to basically all the way to your underbelly, and then breathe it out. But imagine it almost like a beautiful flower opening in your chest.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always imagine this beautiful, beautiful, shiny, glittering green flower and petals that just keep opening and opening, like it just, the passageway just largens.
Yeah. So heart space breathing
Mhm.
would be a great tool in beginning your journey with
Yeah.
this. And in ending, I want to there's this poem that kind of is fitting for this. It's called The Man in the Glass. Have I done that one yet? I don't think.
I don't remember if you
Okay.
have.
It doesn't
Don't
have,
recall?
I don't know who wrote it, but it is perfect for what we're talking about. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for the day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what the man has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts more in your life is the one staring back from the glass. Some people might think you're a straight shooting chum and call you a wonderful guy, but the man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. He's the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear up to the end. And you've passed the most dangerous, difficult test if the guy in the glass is your friend. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartaches and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. So
Mhm.
again, be nice to yourself and love yourself first. And then the journey takes many twists and turns. Everybody does it differently, but it becomes much, much clearer for you what your pathway would be. So we hope that this little conversation has at least sparked some questions on your part, or maybe some self reflection and
And
some
we
good.
send our love to you.
Yep, we do send
Yeah,
love.
and I'd like to know, at least, underneath the comment section, I'd be interested to know concrete ways. What do you do? What are your acts? How do you express self-love to you? What
That's a good
does
way.
self-love, how does it manifest in your life? What do you do in order to love yourself?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Share with us, because you all have wonderful things that you do and different things that you do. So we
And
wish you all the best.
because I think this is one thing that a lot of people express it differently.
Yes. Because
So-
everybody's unique and different. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good day or evening, people. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.